Hey everyone. Welcome to this first video of many, hopefully, doing Houdini destructions. In this first video, I wanted to just basically cover some just basics. I'm sure most of the stuff that I will be doing forward is going to be basic, but it's going to be something. It's just going to be like a bunch of random effects that has to do with destruction in Houdini, obviously. But this first video, I wanted to just go over some tips and tricks maybe, and just some really basic how to set up RBD systems. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we have our subject here. We have the good old Max teapot. It's easily the best object in any 3D application, so I thought I'd bring it into Houdini. So yeah, let's get started with this. Since a few versions down, we have the RBD SOP nodes. And I'm going to show you some of that. I'm also going to show you the dot network way of doing things. Because as far as I know, the RBD SOP solver is somewhat limited, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe you have the most flexibility with using the DOP network. But you can mix and match. So we can use the RBD nodes here and as well using the DOP network. But let's start. What do we need? What do we need to get something going? We're going to be starting with the RBD, the new way, quote unquote. So we need to fracture, obviously, and for that we need to have scatter to scatter some points. So we put down a scatter, and I know I cannot use the RBD material fracture on this because the teapot is quite thin. I don't have a solid one. I mean, I can make it solid, but it's really thin. So therefore, I'm not going to use that, at least not right now. We might switch to another object later. So I'm going to use the good old Voronoi fracture. And if we just pipe these in like this, like so, we do get fractures. We can do exploded view, and here we go. Nice. So this creates create name attributes, a name attribute, which is really important for the constraints that we're going to be doing as well. But let's first just make this a little bit more interesting. I'm going to add another scatter. Let's do 20 on this one. I can remove the relax. And then we do a, is it replica? Yes. Add that in. It's going to basically spawn a bunch of particle on each of these particles. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe we should just up this a little bit. Here we have those, and then the replica is going to spawn 40 on each of these. Let's just do a sphere. I'm gonna make it smaller. Just add some noise. Now, if we were to look at this, they go outside, they go inside. So let's just add a ray. So we are making these go into like at the surface of this teapot. Minimum distance, and now we have something there. and we can do a merge. Merging these and do so. And hopefully something is working, and it is. Let's explode. No, not that one. And now we have some more stuff. So let's work with this. Gonna turn this on. So yeah, so if we add in an RBD solver, it's just going to work, hopefully. Let's add a ground plane, remove the visualization, because I don't like to see it. And there we go. It's working. Quite boring, but it's something. I do believe it's probably packing inside of here and then unpacking afterwards or something like that. But we can do the RBD configure, which is going to pack our pieces, because previously they were polygons or primitives, and with the configure it does a lot of things, but one of those is it's packing it. And I mean, it's going to give us the same effect. Something to keep in mind is you can see how they are rolling. If we look at this, it's just rolling. That's kind of weird. That is because of the bullet collision shape. And we can lower this, and that should hopefully make it better. And you can do this. Okay, it's still doing it, so let's just lower it even more. Now the best thing is to have it the way it is by default, because I believe the bullet works best if it's not too small of a padding. But sometimes you kind of need to, especially on these really thin surfaces or objects. And you don't have to do it on everything. You can have it on some stuff. You can use like in this case we just have the teapot, so it's like everything's thin, so it is what it is. But you don't have to do this on your whole object that you want to break. It's probably something we're gonna have to handle in other videos, but for now, like, let's just have it like this. Yeah, so that's really all we need to do to get something going, but it's quite boring. So to make it less boring, we need to have constraints. And to make constraints, well, we do have constraints from this. And what is constraints? It's basically just primitive lines. That's all it is. It holds some data. Currently, it doesn't hold anything except for rest. But that's it. Then you have to add constraint name, strength, if it's glue, and type, constraint type, and other things. The RBD material fracture also gives you this. We can give it a try. I can see it's going to not work well on this. So if you turn on the input points, that means that I can feed in custom points that it will use when it fracture it, and then just give it a go. It's most likely gonna, no, here you go. So it's not as, I don't know, stable, I guess. It does a lot of things, the material fracture. But yeah, it's, I guess on very thin surfaces, it's not gonna be the best. Let's get back to that later. We will use the form fracture because I like it. So we have this. We can use it or if we want to create custom constraints, we can use adjacent, connect adjacent pieces. If we pipe this in here into our, this would be our pieces. Now they are not packed. So now then we can use adjacent pieces from points and surfaces if we want to. Now this is like the same kind of different settings, but now if you do it from this one, you cannot use the from surface because it's points. It has packed it. So then you would need to just do an unpack. I believe RBD unpack exists as well. But let's just do it before. Doesn't really matter. Let's see. So we have that. I'm gonna go with this anyways. What we need then would be some form of data, so it knows that it's constraints. So we can use the RBD constraints property. Pipe that in here. So it has a bunch of things. We can pick what kind of constraint it is, and strength and half-life. This is like if your object is gonna like collide somewhere, it's gonna ripple, like the impact and all the other things is gonna like ripple through your constraints. This is basically how far it's gonna go, how fast it's gonna do it. But yeah, and by just doing this, it's probably, oh, okay, it works. Now it works as a, because we have, or is it, let's see, constraints. I mean, let's pick the glue. Yeah. Okay. Now you don't have to do it this way. Like we could, if we wanted to, just do this. Like so. It would be the same thing. We could give it some, here we have thresholds. These are things that you do not have if you do the DOP network way. I'm going to show you how to do it yourself, some of it at least. So if we turn on impact, this one, it's going to break. Okay, looks pretty boring, but it breaks. My favorite is the rules one, constraint from rules. So let's remove this. We're still gonna need this one. This is basically gonna say what it is, what kind of constraint it is. And this one is, let's see, I'm a bit all over the place, but it is what it is. What this does is it does you can pick the 3 different, so hinges is my favorite one. This is basically gonna be, if we, let's see, exploded and explode something. So it's like, it's gonna scatter points across each of these pieces, and then it's gonna look like, okay, is maybe one point here close to this point, and it's gonna create one with 0 rest length, okay? That would be the same as doing it like this. We need to unweld all of these, make it unique, and then we can do a prim properties and basically scale them down to nothing. And that would be the same thing. And of course we would need to have a attribute, which would be, the length would be 0. But we don't need to do that now. This does it for us. Let's pipe that in. And we don't need this many. -1 is going to be unlimited, so as many as possibly can. I guess max connection 1, so it should be 1 connection. I don't know. But yeah, let's see. We add a hard, and it should work. Yeah, so it's sagging. It's cool. Am I able to get my UVs back? Looks so pretty. There we go. Okay. And then we have these nice things like when it's gonna break, which could be like angle. If I set this to something low, it breaks. Looks nice. I like hard constraints. They are more expensive. Glue constraints is really fast, and when things are glued up and they are hasn't broken, it's like it's one piece. It goes really fast. So hard is gonna be harder for the CPU. Yeah. So let's do something like this with the default or the dot network. So we still have these guys. So unconnect this. And what do we need? We need to pack them. So let's pack them by clicking pack primitives. I'm just going to do the UV because I want to. Now it creates names. This one also creates names. As you can see, name. So you have to be careful with this because you might overwrite names down the line when you shouldn't. So just be wary of that. But now it doesn't really matter. Let's see. We have the name here, whatever. We don't need it. At least not now. And what do we need then? We need a dot network. And no, I kind of like adding a null. Like so. Out, I don't know, rags. And then we can do an out constraints. We don't have any yet, but we will. So again, let's go in here to the dot network and use a packed RBD packed object. We need a rigid body solver. We need a merge. We need a gravity. I'm just holding down shift and clicking, or shift enter. It's gonna connect them. And I want to have a ground. Add it into the merge. This needs to go first, or you can do mutual, then it doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to do there. And here we can drop in the out frags that we created here. And let's see, what else are we missing? Oh, it's not connected. So, and there we go. Now we should have the same, everything breaks. Great. And they are also now rolling. Now we can actually, I can show you the collision, how it looks. Let's go to bullet data, show. And here you can see it's not at all like the actual shape. So if we lower this, can we go back to kind of the same? See, it's a bit slower when you show this. Again, it's not perfect, even though we have it on 0.1. So I'm just going to do this. I'm not saying you should do this like by default. It's just if they are like very thin pieces. But now we're kind of where we were before when we didn't have constraints. Looks really fun, I know. Now let's create our constraints. So we can do it from here. Let's create one ourselves. Connect adjacent pieces. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say just do from surface points. I want to use hard because hard is they are a lot more fun. Also soft. I'm not gonna go through soft today, but I'm sure we're gonna use it, especially for metal bending. It's like super easy to do. I mean, hard is kind of easy to do as well. You just have to switch to another constraint at certain point in time, or based on angle threshold. But let's go with this for now. Unique points. We need a primitive properties, and just scale these down. Do translation, rotate, scale, like so. So yeah, you can pipe out the length attribute. And we can look to see how it looks when the length attribute is not what it should be. So right here, at this point in time, maybe I should, so at this point in time, we can see if we go to primitives that this is what they are in rest length. This is like their, or like the position that they want to be in. And if they're not, they are gonna do their best to get to that position. And if we just leave it like that, and we create our constraints, let's not see this. Constraint network, add that in here. And subpath, let's go to out constraints. And we need a hard constraint relationship. Oh yeah, we haven't actually created our names and whatnot. So let's just do it. You can do it. We can do it with a prim wrangle because this is primitives, the constraints. You can use you know, the RBD constraint properties if you want to. That works as well. There's many ways of doing it. Let's just do it this way for now. Like, I'm not saying this is the way to do it, but it's a way. So S, I don't know if you can see that, but S at constraint underscore name, and then this can be called whatever. I'm just going to say hard. Hard constraints also need a type. So if we do S, because it's a string, constraint underscore type equal, I'm going to go all. That's kind of what you always want to do, more or less. There are, what is it? Now I can't remember. Position and rotation? I don't know. I don't remember which one they are. But that's really like, this is what we need to have it actually working. And if we now, yeah, you can see this looks weird. So it's working. And let's go for this. Now the rest length is wrong, so it's going to explode like this. Looks super weird because it's trying to get to the rest length that this one outputs, which is fine unless you do this one. So you're like splitting it and then shrinking it, so it's like next to each other. Because if we're just doing this, it's going to create like a point in the middle of each piece. So you get a nicer bend on the surface if you don't have it like this, and instead have them be at the edges of the like the inner caps or whatever you want to call it. So we can do it here. We can just say at rest length equals 0. If you just do an at without something before, it's gonna assume it's a float. Or you can say f at, but you don't need to. So let's see if it works now. And it works. It doesn't explode, so that's good. Something to keep in mind is these works as multipliers. So having this at 1 is fine because 0 multiplied with 1 is 0. So, but if you use like if you do, let's see, like a glue constraint, and you have like strength at 10,000, and then you in here glue, and you don't change this, basically it's going to do 10,000 multiplied by 10,000, so it's going to be a ton of it. So it's best to just set these to ones, so you actually get the values that you want to have. But yeah, so what are we missing? Well, we're missing that they break. And if you remember with this, we have this nice angle threshold. You don't really have it here. So what can we do about that? Well, I'm going to show you. And I'm just going to do a null first and call this like out subsolver constraints. And then we can do a subsolver. I prefer to do them outside of here. You don't have to, but I prefer it. So then I can just check the use external sub and pick the out sub solver constraints that we just created. And of course we need to have a solver. It's really nice. And do like so. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to do something with the constraints. So I'm just going to pipe that in. If everything is right, nothing happens. That's good. If we didn't, I think they would just break. But if we do this, not like this. Like so. Let's also, I'm just going to pin this. And also going to, I don't want to see the floor. I don't like it. Since I pin it, it's always going to show. So here we have the previous frame. We have the inputs. What I want to do is we need to be able to, based on the angle, for example, break, either remove or just add them to the broken group. Broken is also a known group that Houdini knows of. So what we can do is, if I pin this, so this .net, I pin, this is the spreadsheet. I haven't said anything about that, but so not so much a beginner tutorial maybe. We have the inspector geometry spreadsheet. This is why I'm not a professional YouTuber. Okay. If we go to the relationship, constraint network again, and click on the geometry, and we go to primitives, we can now see that there's an angle. There's also torque. There's force. So by having this pinned, we can just go in here into our subsolver again and do a object merge. I can just click drag this geometry, whoops, like so. And I can unpin this. And if I look at this now, we still see it. This means that we can, if we want to, we can do a attribute copy, or use, we can bring it in with a wrangler as well, but let's just do it this way for now. I want to bring in the angle. So now we have it in this stream right here. And now we can do a wrangle primitive, because again, these are primitives. We're working with the constraints, so no points. And what we can do here is basically do an if statement. And I mean, you can condense it even more. Let's do it like this for now. And do if at angle, if it's greater than, I mean, it's going to be really small. So let's just do 0.01 for now. And do at group underscore broken, I believe, if I'm not way off. And let's just see, does that work? It does work. So some of it breaks, or a lot of it breaks, but it looks kind of nice. You can condense this even more. Like you can do a one-liner, even smaller one-liner. So at group underscore broken again equal at angle greater than 0.01. Then you do a question mark. If that's true, if it's greater, it's going to be 1, and then you do a dot, whatever that's called. Yeah, hopefully you can see it. Otherwise, it's going to be a 0. And that would basically be, I mean, that wasn't that much shorter. Group. Like so. Hopefully we're going to get the same. We get the same result. Nice. And of course, to make it even nicer, we could either you can do a channel here, or we can do it up here. So let's do it up here. Go into the cogwheel, edit parameter interface. I'm going to drag in a float, and let's just call this, what are we going to call it? Angle thresh angle. I'm going to do range 0 to 0.2 maybe, because it's such a small numbers, it's just easier. And I can just do a copy parameter, go in here, and I'm just going to paste, paste relative reference. Just copy this, do a control, go back again. What's it called? Control C. And then we can paste in this. And that should work. And now everything is going to break. Yes. And now I'm changing this to something else higher. And it doesn't break. Great. So it works. So we have the control up here. It's just, I mean, you can always split. Like split something, maybe not this one. Like sometimes I have like 4 windows, so I can have different like you set numbers. So I want this to be linked with this, and then this to this, and then you can be like, oh, I'm in here on here, and then I can still be outside of here. But yeah, whatever. Doesn't. It's nice to have it here. So yeah, I don't know how long I've been talking, and I'm sure there's a ton of things that I was supposed to say that I now completely forgot. The videos that I'm gonna do, after this video is going to be just like random destruction effects, not. And I mean, we're gonna cover these things in those videos as well, or other things. But let me just think if there's more stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of things. But anyways, like you can mix and match, obviously. I just think that I like using the .NET. because it's going to give you the most flexibility. Now you can double click on this RBD solver, and here we have those things. So you can do a lot here as well. And maybe this is, you know, not limited at all. That might be the case. I'm not sure. I've just basically heard people say that the DOP network is the one that's going to give you the most flexibility. But you can still use all the RBD constraint or RBD SOP nodes, even if you're using the .NET. You just can't use the RBD solver. Let's see. RBD. I mean, there's plenty of stuff here that we're going to be, I'm sure, use in later videos. So, but yeah, that's, now I just have to make myself a thumbnail, and then I'll upload the video. So yeah, see you in the next video. Bye bye.